COP29 is currently underway in Azerbaijan, and during a session today where negotiators shared their progress, Australian Climate Minister Chris Bowen said he had heard a variety of different amounts for how much cash is needed for climate finance. Developing countries say they need $1.3 trillion a year, but other nations have proposed figures from $440 billion to $900 billion. Bowen and Egypt's Environment Minister, Yasmin Foued, are co-leading negotiations on the climate finance goal.
Mr. Fouad and I heard from developing countries a requirement of US $1.3 trillion of finance mobilised. But we heard different proposals for the split between the provided element and the element which would be mobilised from that provision quantum. For example, we've heard three different proposals for the provided quantum of $900 billion, $600 billion and $440 billion. Others have mentioned a floor of US $100 billion with linkages to the contributor base resolution, as well as sources and structure.
Meanwhile, OPEC Secretary General Haitham Al-Ghaiz told the COP29 summit in Baku on November the 20th that crude oil and natural gas should be seen as valuable resources, emphasizing that discussions on global warming should focus on reducing emissions rather than excluding specific energy sources. He echoed Azerbaijan President Ilham Aliyev's comments, who also referred to oil and gas as a gift from God in his opening address. Al-Ghaiz argued that the climate goals set in the 2015 Paris Agreement aim to cut emissions, not dictate energy choices, and stressed that technologies like carbon capture can help mitigate the environmental impact of fossil fuels. The Indonesian President, Prabowo Subianto, has assured that his country is confident it can achieve net zero emissions by 2040, a decade earlier than its previous target. He also announced plans to retire all coal and fossil fuel power plants within the next 15 years, advancing the original deadline of 2056. In addition, Indonesia aims to build 75 gigawatts of renewable energy capacity over the same period. Prabowo highlighted the country's abundance of sunlight, which makes solar energy a key resource for its renewable energy transition. Despite being one of the world's largest greenhouse gas emitters and a leading thermal coal exporter, Indonesia is home to the third largest rainforest, which aids its commitment to sustainability. According to the Kuwait Central Statistical Bank Bureau, Kuwait's consumer price index grew by 2.44% last October on an annual basis. The Bureau said that on a monthly basis, the inflation rate rose 0.13% compared to last September. The increase in annual inflation was primarily driven by higher prices in key sectors, particularly food, clothing and education, but excluding transportation. Moody's forecasts that Saudi Arabia's economy will grow by 1.7% in 2024, followed by a stronger 4.7% growth in 2025 and 2026, driven by government-backed diversification projects. This projection exceeds previous estimates, including the Saudi government's own forecast of just 0.8% GDP growth for 2024 and the 4.6% growth predicted in the kingdom's pre-budget statement for 2025. The 2025 growth outlook aligns with Saudi Arabia's planned $343 billion expenditure, reflecting its commitment to Vision 2030 goals, which includes investment in technology, tourism, renewable energy, and infrastructure. Moody's noted that government-led diversification efforts in hydrocarbon exporting nations like Saudi Arabia will fuel significant growth in the coming years. Iraq's fuel oil exports are set to reach record highs in 2024, surpassing 18 million metric tons, driven by increased shipments in October. This surge comes as domestic demand eases and production rises, supporting Iraq's oil revenues despite stagnant crude exports due to OPEC production caps. The boost in fuel oil exports, primarily high sulfur and straight run types, will help ease elevated prices in Asia and lower refinery feedstock costs. October alone saw a record 2.15 million metric tons exported, with major destinations including Singapore and India.